Good evening and welcome to the Daily Report. It's the 25th day of this month. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We give you all the details on the progress of SHA as the government tries to transition from NHIF, and then later on the marketplace, we're going to be telling you all about digital lending. It's very popular with a lot of Kenyan adults. It's going digital. People want to know what exactly you're borrowing. I have the analysts for that, but first, the highlights. Busia Senator Okia Omtata files a petition challenging the appointment of Douglas Kanja as the Inspector General of Police. Also tonight, human rights activists unveil a damning report revealing that 61 people were killed in anti-government protests.
Come to this year, 2024, hashtag reject finance bill. We are reporting the 61.
And the government forms a negotiating team to resolve the ongoing university lecturers' strike.
If there's a chance where you know that the CBA cannot be implemented because of budgetary constraints or other issues, this needs to be tackled much earlier so that we can be proactive. We stop these problems before they occur.
All right, we clearly have a lot to be going through today. My name is Hibaq Said. On sign language interpretation tonight is Kelvin Makori. To start us off, with only 6 days to go before the rollout of the Social Health Authority on October 1st, the preparedness of the Ministry of Health ahead of the rollout is in question. Despite the imminent launch, officials are still undergoing training on how to implement the SHA program, raising questions about whether the necessary groundwork has been fully laid. And Odida with that report.
The region has 3 counties and 35.
The Ministry of Health may be pressing forward but glaring gaps in preparation for the rollout of the Social Health Authority and a significant shortfall in household registration reveal that much work still remains.
So to reach the informal sector, we need awareness to be created to the public. Most Kenyans know about the transition from NHIF to Social Health Authority, but they do not understand how that will be done.
Ukweli hiyo majina ya SHA na NHIF mpaka nielemishwe nijue ni nini na inafanyanga kazi namna gani, kwa sababu sisi sana sana huwa tunakuwa kwa giza kwa sababu hatuna mtu ambaye anakuja kwa ground kutuelimisha habari ya NHIF na SHA.
Na muache sisi nyinyi serikali kusubua mama poka, kwa sababu mnatusubua tatuelewagi tuko Kenya gani sisi. Tuko mara na huku kwa shifo, mara tuko na wapi.
A stark reality emerged in today's meeting where household registration remains alarmingly low. The ministry aimed to register 60% of households before the rollout, but only approximately 35% have been accounted for. This massive shortfall is a blow to efforts to engage the informal sector, which remains one of the ministry's primary goals.
At community level, the message has not reached quite well. The coverage is not good.
Interior CS Kithure Kindiki projected optimism by the fact that regional managers are still being briefed and trained so close to the deadline could suggest that the Ministry of Health may be racing against time.
What is it about? Why should everyone be part of this? What are the benefits? Why is it important? What does it save them from? And so forth and so on. Very basic information that can help the people of Kenya to enroll.
Health CS Deborah Barasa admitted that the program has not sufficiently penetrated communities, with many still unaware of its benefits. She pointed out that misinformation circulating on social media has contributed to confusion, further slowing down the registration process.
At the higher level, there's a lot of things going on in social media that may change the vision of Kenyans. They will not understand that this is for their benefit.
However, 1.67 million people have so far registered for the program. The next few days will be crucial in determining whether this program can hit its targets and successfully provide universal health coverage as intended. Ann Odida, TV47.
Thank you, Anne, for that report. Tonight, the National Assembly's Public Investments Committee on Commercial Affairs and Energy has warned the Kenya Airports Authority to respect Parliament after the authority failed to provide crucial documents needed by the Auditor General to undertake a forensic audit in the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport takeover deal by Indian company Adani Holding Limited. The committee, which directed KAA to stop any further dealings with KAA on Tuesday, expects a final report by October on how Adani won the deal and whether due process was followed. Apollo Kamau tells us more.
Identifying Adani the best.
Officials from the Kenya Airports Authority faced intense scrutiny from the National Assembly's Public Investment Committee on Commercial Affairs and Energy for their shocking failure to produce vital documents needed for a critical forensic audit by Auditor General Nancy Gathungu.
The House with authority to do something for the people of Kenya is National Assembly, and it is this committee. And we will not abdicate our responsibility. We will do it. And we will teach some people a lesson.
We don't have anything to hide here, because at the end of it all, I think whatever all the parties here are doing is for the benefit of this great country, Kenya.
It begs to ask the question, he's been at KAA, which is a parastatal, a government entity, earning government money, or Wanjiko's money, for 19 years or so, and he does not understand or appreciate a body called Parliament.
The documents are crucial for the Auditor General, the committee and Kenyans at large, as they will shed light on how Adani won the 230 billion shillings JKIA upgrade deal through a private initiated proposal and how the money was arrived at, with a final report on whether the government should proceed with the deal or not, expected in October.
Was the process of identifying Adani the best? And that's PPP. Was that the best? And again, is there any other way apart from that we can get somebody investing in KA? Not the process which we've taken Adani.
But the most important thing for the government and the auditors and what we audit is the process. And that's why most people fight. They have done a very good project, they have delivered, but you fight them in jail because of missing the process.
It's race against time for the Auditor General, who has 2 weeks to unearth the truth about the secret deal that has gripped the nation, with employees at KAA worried about their future on what the takeover means.
JKIA is Kenya, and Kenya is JKIA. So we want to assure the staff that Parliament is there for you. You know, this is House of the People.
National Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Badi, while appearing before the Debt and Privatization Committee of the National Assembly, queried on how KAA granted Adani the deal in a record 1 day. Apul Kamau, TV47.
Now, 3 private schools in Dia constituency, Kirinyaga County, have been closed for failing to meet safety standards. Kirinyaga County Director of Education Lydia Mutegi cited poor infrastructure, a lack of toilets, and non-compliance with the Ministry of Education guidelines. Ruga Eval with the details.
Eti shule yetu ifungwe. Ifungwe kwa nini? Tunataka kujua shule yetu inafungwa kwa nini? Watoto wetu wanasoma vizuri, wako na walimu wazuri.
The first wave of school closures has struck, targeting private institutions deemed dangerous for student safety. Agwil School in Kirinyaga County is the latest casualty, joining the list of those labeled unsafe.
Anasema shule ma structure sio mzuri na haija qualify na tumeoperate for wrong na wanakuanga huku na mpaka niko na grade 6 waliregistiwa Mokoi na yeye ndiye alinipea ni host watoto huko Mokoi.
2 more schools, Joystar and Hizen, have been condemned for grossly inadequate infrastructure, lacking proper sanitation and critical documentation. This crackdown follows a stern warning from Education CS Julius Migosi, who, addressing the Parliament, underscored the immediate need for schools to meet safety regulations introduced in the year 2008 to protect students' lives. Outrage brewing among affected parents, left reeling after paying tuition fees, now grappling with the sudden closure.
Niko na watoto 4 na nimelipia school fees na huku hatuhami. hatuna pahali pa kuenda tena na tumefika mwisho.
Vile sisi tunataka watukumbalie, tusome mwezi huu, watoto wetu wafanye mtihani, tufanye mambo yetu yote ya mwaka huu.
A somber event looms as the memorial for the 21 students who tragically perished in Endarasha, Nyeri County is scheduled for the coming month at Muiga Stadium. With this new development, parents will be allowed to collect their loved ones' bodies for final rites. Ruga Ivan, TV47.
Thank you, Ruga. Today marks 3 months since the June 25th Gen Z-led anti-finance bill protests, infamously known as Occupy Parliament. Investigations by various human rights groups reveal a harrowing toll. 6 people were shot and killed.
3 months have passed since the Gen Z-led anti-finance bill protest, infamously known as Occupy Parliament. Now Amnesty International and several human rights organizations have unveiled a damning report revealing grim details about the 25th protest that unfolded across the nation.
Approximately 2:30 p.m., after members of parliament approved amendments to the finance bill, videos show protesters advancing towards the building and what sounds like gunshots.
The report reveals a horrific toll where 61 lives snatched away in a matter of hours, with 6 people confirmed shot dead in cold blood, and a heart-wrenching 72 others either abducted or still unaccounted for.
Now, come to this year, 2024, hashtag reject finance bill. We are reporting the 61, and remember that there are various processes in regards to confirming and verifying, and we only issue numbers that we have verified.
3 eyewitnesses said that they saw at least 6 bodies of protesters who were believed to have been shot dead.
The rights groups stand in outrage, asserting that police unlawfully unleashed a deadly combination of lethal and less lethal weapons against protesters who, despite the chaos, remain predominantly peaceful. According to the lobby group, disturbing video evidence show police ruthlessly aiming tear gas canister directly at protesters.
The protest was largely peaceful. Video footage shows police firing tear gas at a small group of protesters in Nairobi at 10:30 a.m. This investigation confirmed that the police repeatedly shot tear gas canisters or grenades directly at protesters, sometimes at head level or straight up in the air, risking severely injuring people where they landed.
This egregious behavior constitutes a grave violation of international human rights laws and standards, including the United Nations Basic Principles of the Use of Force and Firearms by law enforcement officers, the United Nations Human Rights Guidance on less lethal weapons in law enforcement has been flagrantly disregarded.
The police failed to provide medical assistance as required by the Principle 5C of the United Nations Basic Principles on the Use of Force and Firearms by law enforcement and officials. Instead, they fire tear gas canisters directly at the group.
Furthermore, the report reveals disturbing evidence of alleged rogue police flaunting the existing laws of the land while handling protesters. A glaring footage captured throughout the day during protest revealed a good number of officers, some in uniform, were completely unidentifiable, failing to display their service numbers as required by Section 10 of the National Police Service Act.
Men dressed in civilian clothes responded by firing shots. At least 4 men are seen on camera firing rifles and handguns towards the crowd and in the air. Researchers counted at least 45 shots fired within 56 seconds.
Samira Mohammed for TV47.
Thank you, Samira. Tonight, as the public university strike enters its 8th day, the University Academic Staff Union UASU and the Kenya University Staff Union KUSU met with the Cabinet Secretary of Labour. The caucus agreed to establish an interministerial committee to address university staff grievances. However, UASU Secretary General Constantine Wesonga stated that the strike will continue. Anastasia Mukabi with the details.
The university lecturer strike enters its 2nd week. Labour and Social Protection Cabinet Secretary Alfred Mutua held a strategic meeting with UASU and KUSU leaders to form an interministerial committee aimed at resolving the stalemate.
We have agreed that there is urgent need to have a committee, an interministerial committee, that will be able to sit down with us to be able to look at what is possible in the short term that can be able to enable work in the universities to resume.
This interministerial negotiation committee will include members from the Ministries of Education, Ministry of Labour, SRC, Treasury, the Attorney General's Office, state agencies overseeing parastatals, and Interpublic Universities Council Consultative, alongside unions UASU, KUSU, and KUDHEA.
Tomorrow is our big day.
The CS, however, pledged to ensure productive talks to end the ongoing strike.
Kesho saa 3 watakuja hapo kwa ofisi yangu, nitawafungia kwa boardroom na nibebe ufunguo na wakae hapo, tuwapa maji ya kutosha mpaka wasikizane, ndio tuwe na return to work formula.
UASU and KUSU officials still insist the strike will continue until a deal is reached before calling off the strike.
But dons throughout the country, you know the motto of this strike: strike until we strike a deal. Once we strike a deal, I will tell you when to resume duty.
Parents and students are anxiously awaiting tomorrow's talks, hoping for a deal to restore normalcy. Anastasia Mkabi, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, Busia County Senator Okiya Omtata has filed a lawsuit to have the Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja removed from office on grounds that he was not hired through a competitive process, as his appointment was unlawful. According to the affidavit, Kanja's appointment violates the Constitution since he feels that the new Inspector General was picked without going through a competitive process. The case has since been classified as urgent by the High Court Judge Bahati Mwamuye, who also directed the preservation of all records and information pertaining to Kanja's credibility, nomination, vetting, approval, and appointment as the Inspector General of Police. And the rise in global conflicts and emergencies has equally led to a rise in emergency and medical services in the affected countries. But not all healthcare providers are well prepared and equipped to work in war-zone areas. In a bid to address this challenge, the International Committee of the Red Cross ICRC and the Norwegian Red Cross NRC have hosted a joint emergency hospital training program for the medical personnel. Our health and science reporter Elizabeth Atieno attended the training and filed this report.
Deafening gunshots, exploding bombs, and the wailing of ambulance sirens rage through war-torn regions like Sudan, Chad, and Gaza. The myriad of chaos is a constant reminder of never-ending conflict. Amidst this turmoil, a determined group of men and women stands at the forefront, driven by a single purpose: to save lives. These are the health providers.
Oh my goodness, help me guys!
This group of young heroes is on a mission to reveal grim reality of a world under siege. Whenever war breaks out, injuries abound. Ready and resolute, these healthcare providers are armed not with weapons but with compassion and expertise to fulfill their sacred duty to preserve life.
Naweza kuwa kwenye critical care ICU, kuna wagonjwa wanahitaji, kuna kuwa scenario zingine inaanza kwenye emergency, inaingia theater, nenda ICU, yote mnajifunza juu ya kuharmonize.
This young man lies badly injured, his life hanging by a thread. Watch as the medics work furiously to turn back the hands of death.
Then we start the adrenaline. Yeah. And have we lifted his head or we just pretended to do it? So
And while this is a simulation exercise, an almost similar but more serious situation is witnessed in the countries affected by war and conflict, where there is lack of essential life-saving health facilities to deal with emergencies.
It's a new experience for me, and it's a lot to learn. Hopefully, being deployed with the Red Cross, maybe closer to Christmas or after the New Year.
In a bid to address this, the International Committee of the Red Cross ICRC and the Norwegian Red Cross NRC have spent 600 million Kenya shillings to deploy the Norcos hospitals in the countries of Ethiopia, Sudan, Chad and Gaza to help respond to emergencies and offer medical services.
But then the reason that we are located here in Nairobi in Kenya is there's really good air transport routes globally. So often we will use an air charter and we will send the hospital all out together. That means we can deploy it within the 72 to 96 hours.
But the medics say the challenges on ground are something they have learned to face with time.
Let's say in a nutshell, it's really that you work in a low-resource environment with a lot of uncertainty, and quite often it's also quite unsafe.
It can be hard and it can take several weeks to get the importation agreement, which is why we can go in 96 hours, but it can take us sometimes days or weeks to get that.
This is the second time Nairobi has hosted the joint emergency training that brings together healthcare delegates from different Red Cross societies to provide them with real-life simulations to prepare them for deployment.
This is one of the annual hospital trainings aimed at equipping healthcare providers with skills to boost their ability to respond to global conflicts and emergencies. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for that report. Mount Kenya University has launched a state-of-the-art maritime academy at its Malindi campus, aimed at equipping Kenyans to harness the blue economy. Victor Muyakane is on the ground in Malindi to set the scene for us, and he will be telling us how exactly this particular ministry and this state department is trying to equip the people who are there. Let's take a look.
Well, thank you. Hibaq, how are you doing over there in Nairobi? I certainly hope you're doing well. I'm in Malindi town, and I'm telling you, by the look of things around me, you can see the setup is absolutely immaculate. It's absolutely beautiful, and all this is a setup for the main event that's happening tomorrow, which is the launch, the official launch of the Mount Kenya University Maritime Academy with certification, accreditation, which allows a host of young people from this region and across the country and across the region to be able to tap into the wonders of the blue economy. In line with the slogan of Mount Kenya University, unlocking infinite possibilities, you know how amazing, how big the blue economy is. There's lots of opportunities just off of our coast. And this institute here, this Maritime Academy right here, is meant to equip all the young people that wish to be part of this. Now, for those of you at home who are wondering, what is this? How can I get in touch with them? How can I participate? How can I benefit? And who does it affect, or who does it employ? It's for anyone who's currently working in the maritime sector, and indeed anyone who wishes to work in the maritime sector. And we're talking about, you need this kind of training if you wish to work, or you currently work in a vessel that displaces more than 500 gross tonnage and about 20 to 24 feet in length, and maybe something that carries about 12 passengers and above. We're talking yachts, super yachts. We're talking oil tankers and super tankers. We're talking about merchant vessels. We're talking about Coast Guard service. We're talking about fishing vessels, big trawlers. You need this kind of certification. And Mount Kenya University is, I mean, with respect to other universities and other training institutions in the region, I mean, they do offer these services, but not like this, ladies and gentlemen, not like this. We've got something here that's absolutely outstanding. We've got a simulator that is absolutely cutting edge simulator. We're talking about a bridge simulator. For those of you at home, you see the place with the deck and equipment where the captain sits in the plane. It's called a cockpit. For a ship, it's called a bridge. We've got a bridge simulator, something that actually sets you up to see exactly what a sea captain would be able to see. And we have that simulator, and it's ultra realistic. You're able to visualize all the things that you need to visualize. We've got an ICDIS simulator as well. It allows you an electronic chart of the seas. You can be able to access that information and process it and synthesize it in real time. We've also got a pool here that's like nothing you've ever seen before. It looks like a swimming pool, only it's deeper. it's wider, and it's meant to simulate the effects of the ocean, you know. So it's all about training you on how to be able to survive in the ocean by yourself, should there be a disaster, if you're conducting a rescue operation, all that and so much more. Ladies and gentlemen, the list of possibilities, the list of training opportunities right here at the Mount Kenya University Maritime Academy are endless. And the possibilities that emerge from the young people who will be able to tap into this training are equally as endless. The blue economy is a sphere, a sector that is blowing up right now. It's expanding exponentially. And this institution is right there on the frontier of a whole new world. And it's offering Kenyans an opportunity to get the foot in the game in the best way possible. All this happening courtesy of Mount Kenya University. Now, this is the eve of the event. Tomorrow morning, I shall be here by the grace of God to give you all the latest details, and we shall have the official unveiling, the official launch of this absolute cracker of an institution. So I tell you folks, you better be there or be square. My name is Victor Muyakane. I'm coming to you live from Mount Kenya University Maritime Academy on the main thoroughfare of Malindi Town. See you tomorrow.
All right, Victor says be there or be square. He's at Malindi right now, and tomorrow we will be covering that, giving you all the details of that particular school that will be launched. Now, let's go over to sports so that we can get that news, and then later on we're going to be going into the marketplace.
Sports news brought to you.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in? I was number 2. What position were you? Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights,
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
strategies,
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
and stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in? I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in? I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
All right, welcome back to the Daily Report and welcome to the Marketplace. Tonight we're talking about digital lending. It's gaining popularity in the country. A lot of Kenyan youth, Kenyan adults are taking part in digital borrowing. Now, on average, between 5,000 to 10,000 shillings is what people usually borrow. And one might wonder why exactly, this amount. And you would find that people are only borrowing to do, their daily tasks, to get rid of those bills that usually occupy or that add up every single day. These are the small things you pay for: your grocery, your transportation bills, a bill here, a bill there, medical and health care. Now, in my panel tonight, I have Wanjiku Wambugu, who is the CEO of Nyali Capital Limited, and she's just going to be telling us about credit and lending, how exactly that realm is doing. And I have Jared Getenga, who is the CEO of CIS Kenya, which is the credit information sharing, and he is just going to be telling us about how exactly information is very important when it comes to lending and how this is essential in regulatory frameworks and building up these regulatory frameworks. Jared, I'll start with you. Kenyans are borrowers, but Kenyans are not very big on saving. Why do you think this is?
Well, it's a culture thing. It's easier to use money that is not yours than to put away money that is yours. And sometimes when credit is used, people use it for different reasons. Some would like to use it to invest in something that will give a return. And if you can get money from somebody that is not yours to invest into something that will give you a return before you repay it, that's a brilliant experience. Right. Unfortunately, many others will use credit to consume. Right. Others will use it for something that will not give a return financially, but will be profitable in the long run because it may not be an income generating activity. Like if you are paying school fees, that's sensible because you may then be able to repay with an added value to yourself. So yeah, people have good reasons to borrow.
Right, and you know, the economy is always changing. Sometimes it's in your favor, sometimes it's not. Maybe if you could just bring some clarity. Credit information sharing, what exactly does that entail?
So because a lot of people borrow, some do pay, others don't. The lender who is meeting you for the first time doesn't quite know what your character is when it comes to loan repayment. And in the past, before credit information sharing was established, lenders had a lot of difficulty determining what is the character of the borrower. And we had a lot of a crisis actually in the 80s and in the 90s. There was a financial crisis, and lenders attributed it to what was called information asymmetry. Information asymmetry is where the borrower has certain information about themselves that the lender doesn't. They are probably borrowed in several places, and the lender doesn't know. So we came up with a framework for information sharing, which allows lenders to get a glimpse of each borrower, the scope of their borrowing. And it's not a bad thing because many times the borrower is also able to say, wow, this is a good payer. They have been paying in their circle over the years. Now they have matured into probably a bank and they have a lot more confidence. Without information sharing, it would be a story you would be telling the bank. You know, I'm a good guy.
Fighting for your life.
Fighting for your life. But this is now an independent source of information, properly structured, equipped with data from different sources, and it gives a very credible picture to the lender. So we set up independent institutions called credit reference bureaus. And then we got them to be licensed so that they could be, you know, supervised. They could follow proper structures, protect, you know, the information they receive, have security features on the data that they receive, their algorithms to be good, issue credit reports, and that kind of stuff.
All right, Wanjiku, this clarity for, you know, credit providers is very important. Knowing the person that you're going to give this money to, this amount to. Maybe if you could just tell us, you deal with business to business, you know, crediting. What exactly does that entail?
A little bit about us. Yeah, Nyali Capital. Nyali Capital is a credit-only microfinance, meaning we don't take our funds from the public. So, but we do lending, and we started in Mombasa in 2013. And the lending business has actually been made easier, like Jared said, because of the information sharing bit. When we started in 2013, I remember the biggest challenge was borrowers came to us. Borrowers came to us because they knew there's a new microfinance that has opened somewhere. And I think that information runs very quickly. And at the time, the information sharing bit was not as it is today.
Right.
So we were not able to find out, have these ladies or these gentlemen borrowed elsewhere. But now with CRB, we could be able now to check. And I think even Nyali Capital was among the first agents of CRB at the time.
Right.
So we were able to help them also get their reports. The clients get their reports. And at the same time, we're able to check the reports of our clients. So that in the end, you can be able to tell they have borrowed here, 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 here. But that didn't start immediately. At the beginning, the ladies were borrowing so that they could pay up another microfinance.
All right.
Yeah, so that information sharing bit has been very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wanjiku, maybe if you could just tell us, things are changing. You know, now we're moving from an asset-centric, sort of credit giving to a more, who is this personality? Are they able to pay you? Gauging someone's, personality and how they usually, the behavior they have when it comes to paying. How important is it to have this particular information for you?
In credit, what we say is that, and especially with all financial institutions that lend, is that we make money when we are paid.
Right.
Yeah, so if you lend and you haven't been paid, then you kind of lost everything, like your principal and everything, including the cost that you may have incurred before you disbursed. And so it's very important for you to guard that the money you have given out, and especially for us who are credit only, to come back, because this money maybe you borrow from the banks, or maybe they're also investments that you've made into the business.
Right.
So very important to check what we call the 5 C's, and the first C is the character. So that character is key. Sometimes it's not quantified, like you would say maybe others could be the other C, the last one is the C, which is the collateral. It's maybe what security the client may have. So at least that you can be able to check the value. Is it a logbook? Is it the title deed? But the character is one where a few things that you may check. There are people who would say, I have the money and I won't pay you.
Utadu?
Yeah, utadu.
Right.
And you keep chasing them, but they don't pay you. But there's another one who is saying, Wanjiku, I do not have this money, but sasa every Friday, nitakuwa nakuwekea hizi. Wanjiku, every Friday, nitakuwa nakuwekea hizi. So that is where also character comes in. A few things about characters that we also check, maybe even from the M-Pesa statements, because we ask for that so that we're able to check the transaction, the number of transactions and the frequency of them. Sometimes we even check the hours that this person maybe is also paying their bills. Depending on what they do, does it align with the hours that maybe they're making the bill, they're paying? Maybe is it at the club? Is it 2 a.m.?
Right.
Those are some of the few things that you check and you start putting question marks, and maybe the borrower at the point of application may not realize where we are asking for that information. But character indeed is one that determines whether we are going to be paid back our money or not, beyond everything else.
All right.
I'd like us to add something to Wanjiku's point about character, which is really, you asked the question about how have things changed, how have things evolved. Character was not quite a focus area in the past. The other C, among the other C's, is the issue of collateral.
All right.
So in past lending, the focus used to be, if you have given them a good collateral as a lender, then they would feel a little more comfortable that should you fail, they will sell. But things have shifted from physical collateral as a basis for lending to now what we would call a character as a collateral. So I think there's a shift there, and that's what is really transformed lending in these times.
Right.
Yeah.
Before we even delve into that, Jared, let me just finish one question with Wanjiku. Kenyans borrow between 4,000 to 10,000, 5,000 to 10,000 shillings. What do you think, triggers this? Because one would think that if you're getting a loan, you're going to get a huge amount of money, you start your own business so that you start getting that money coming in. Why is this the amount that people go for?
Allow me to speak from maybe what I think. And this could actually be controversial.
Right.
But I think there is also enough credit. There are various, there are so many mobile platforms today.
Right.
So it's not a matter of, you can easily access money. It's for you to choose whether I'll use this platform or the other platform, or I go to Nyali Capital, or it's really up to you.
Right.
So what maybe you're not able to do is looking at your capacity to pay, which is another C. So your capacity to pay, even, I mean, if you borrow more than, say, 10,000, and you're only earning maybe 12,000,
right,
then of course that's a problem. So I think even the borrower themselves, they are able to weigh how much can I borrow. Number two, there are all these algorithms that Jared talked about, that even you're actually borrowing from the mobile platforms.
Right.
They have been able to look, they can be able to access your information and know, again, what is your capacity to pay. They can be able to tell how you've borrowed last time, did you pay with difficulty or did you pay in time, you know. And so they keep on reducing this amount or increasing the amount depending also on your ability to pay. Again, these amounts for me, and because I come from a space where I finance business people more than I finance borrowers for personal use.
Right.
So it's also more of a consumption, like you said earlier. I'm borrowing to pay a certain bill. Right. I'm borrowing to repay another loan that I took, and I'm not able to get the money to pay. It's mostly now for consumption. So for consumption, also that amount gets to be smaller compared to when you may be borrowing for a bigger purpose, maybe like a project.
Right.
Anyone, maybe even for me who is a member of a SACCO, if I'm to borrow from the SACCO, I'm likely to get like 3 times of my savings. So if I saved 100,000, I'm able to get 300,000. So with 300,000, there's a project that I can be able to run that I even have planned for in advance. But for this 5,000, 10,000, I think there's a particular group, and especially mostly the youth, who are being targeted. So they're always running on a cycle. It's a vicious cycle that once you repay, you take more. It used to be like that, the same vicious cycle, but for projects, maybe for people who have been here for a longer, for longer, because when you finish repaying the SACCO loan, you're also checking your pay slip, for instance, to see which is the next project that I'm going to do. Right. But you say maybe you've paid for about a year, 2 years, and then you're also ripe for the next project. So now, today, with the 10,000 or less, it's really not for the project. It's actually for the next consumption, which I think is really not interesting. It's a sad situation as it is.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you can send in your questions on 22427, which is on the screen, or on our socials at TV47 News, at TV47KE. I'm already seeing some questions are coming in. Jared, I'll direct this one to you. Online loan institutions or loan apps and apps have high rates. Why do you think this is?
Have high rates? Probably high default rates. Maybe that's what the question means to ask.
Or a high service interest, yes.
Or it could be interest rates. Okay. Yeah, it's understandable that the app kind of lenders will charge higher. It's perfectly explainable. Right. Partly because this app, they source their money from either their personal capital or they borrow from expensive sources. Right. Unlike many other lenders like commercial banks who have licenses to take deposits. Okay. And when they mobilize deposits, the interest that they pay on the deposits is fairly low. And so they have a bigger room to play around with their interest rate, and therefore they can charge much less. The apps use capital that is usually expensive if they are borrowing that money, or those who invest in this kind of opportunities are looking for a higher than normal return. Otherwise, they would have put this money probably in a treasury bill.
Right.
And they would have earned reasonable interest. Now they are taking a high risk putting this money into the app platforms.
All right.
So it's understandable. Then secondly, they don't know you. The app guys don't know you.
Right.
They are taking a chance on you. They may not be able to get hold of you because they may not have taken all the details around where you live or around where they may not have a pay slip to cushion them, a security to cushion them. So the risk is high. and that explains the higher interest rates.
Right. Before I go to Wanjiku, maybe Jared, if you could give us your insights. Are they regulated by CRB? And this is a question that usually really comes up. A few years ago, you know, the CBK was regulating some of these digital lenders, and most of them didn't, you know, hit the cutoff points. This regulation, how important is it? How can you identify that you're being, you know, you're borrowing from a platform that is okay with the government?
Okay. Yeah, so there are many credibility levels that regulation is one of them. And it's an important one because you expect that a lender who is regulated will treat you with some element of decorum, will use certain standards even when they are collecting the loans. There's an element of trust that this is somebody who will treat you well and whose interest rate might be expected to be reasonable when they are regulated. And so the central bank came up with a rule that digital credit providers needed to be licensed so that then they could have some responsibility and accountability for the business that they do, knowing that if they mistreat you, for example, there are accusations that they sometimes debt collection practices are not friendly, then the central bank would be able to withdraw the license or punish them or fine them, penalize them. So yeah, many of them are not licensed. The central bank asked that they be licensed. A number of them have asked for licenses. 58 of them have been licensed to date. It's a bit of a slow process, and there are many others who are looking for license and have applied for it. So they are at reasonable stages of being licensed. As long as there is an application sitting with the central bank, and the central bank is engaging the digital credit provider, you would say that they are above board.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, Kenyans or borrowers themselves have a habit of borrowing from unregulated, you know, digital lenders. We're seeing over 2 million Kenyans borrow from unregulated digital lenders. This number is rising very fast. And someone is asking you, Wanjiku, threatening messages is what we get when one has just defaulted by a day. Why do you think this is? Just a day.
I don't know why they feel threatened. I don't know what the threats would look like, but I know in debt collection, we do reminders.
Right.
Yeah, like if you're to repay next month. So you borrow today is on the 25th. You borrow to repay in a month. So whether we are following you physically with a call or maybe with a message, maybe like 1 week too, would remind you that this money is due on this day. And then maybe a day too, then you would also remind you that it's tomorrow. Maybe again on the day, in the morning, we would have to remind you that it's today. What time probably are you making the deposit? So, and I'm sure those are some of the messages that they receive. And part of the reasons why that was rampant before, I think the threats are not happening anymore. And that is what brought up the digital credit provider and the regulations around it, so that the credit providers are not, the clients are not feeling like they're being threatened and they are at the mercy of these people. However, just to have some balance where, again, the clients should know that it's also a lot of work to do debt collection. It's really not easy. We say we provide financing, but what we do on a day-to-day basis in our offices is to ask whether this one has paid. Why didn't you collect this one? Follow this one. Please get this one. Tomorrow morning, don't report to the office.
Unless, that's why I think they're usually frustrated, because they tell you, usipolipa, I'm texting everyone in your phone book, I'm going to tell them so and so doesn't repay.
No, I think that has stopped. That has stopped. And we also say it can work like, if you know, for instance, you're not ready and this was your day, I think you should be proactive and just communicate in advance. I think that would be very nice if those are the messages we received. Like, by the way, before you threaten me, those messages that keep coming, I'm even fearing them. I want to tell you that I'm not able to pay tomorrow. However, on the 27th, you guys expect this money.
All right.
Yeah.
There's the aspect of debt shaming, right? This is, I assume, in a situation where an individual has not paid, and considering now that some of the, CRB measures have been, laxened a little bit, you'd find that they try to be polite about it, some credit providers, but there's still an aspect of debt shaming. Jared, maybe if you could just tell us, does this usually work? Are there limits? What sort of lingo, is being used in that particular realm?
Yeah, there was a lot of concern in past years that debt shaming was becoming rampant. Unorthodox methods were being used to inform friends, family. Imagine your imam being told
right.
that
Oh, embarrassing.
being told that your friend is not paying. That was really bad.
Right.
Parents, and the idea was that the person whom we should be told is the one who there will be greatest impact in terms of embarrassment. So the higher the embarrassment, the more chances that you will pay, because then you will have been shamed.
All right.
That was discouraged completely, and actually its impact was horrible,
right.
because there are people who were so embarrassed, and it was clear that there were some who were even committing suicide because their social circles got to know about their defaults.
Right.
So that was not acceptable.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to be delving into all of that in a little while, and we also want to see what the government is saying, because the government is also a digital lender through the Hustler Fund, and it has an almost 33% default rate. We will be looking into those numbers. We see what is happening in that realm. Don't go too far. We'll be right back.
Hey there, friends! Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in? I was number 2. What position were you? Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated, and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind. where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Welcome back to the marketplace. In the digital age, and as things continuously progress, you find that people usually go to digital loans because that's the easiest way to get money. Now, for credit providers on the other end, this can be a very risky business, considering it's very hard to lend on the digital space and have collateral at the same time. Now, as you know, or as you will know, the government is also a lender through the Hustler Fund. The Hustler Fund was made in order to ensure that people from, the lower cadres, MSMEs get funding without necessarily needing collateral. It's a credit base for the people. However, this particular loan has a default rate of almost 30%, around 20 to 30%. The Cabinet Secretary for MSMEs and Cooperative Development had a few things to say about the Hustler Fund. Let's take a look.
Discussing with Safaricom to make sure that those who borrowed at least pay back. Of course, before I used to say don't pay, but now I'm saying pay. I'm now saying pay. It will help other Kenyans. It will help other Kenyans. But in consultation with the service providers, we are coming out with other innovations to make sure that those who have borrowed money just pay back.
If there are no frameworks in any institution, financial institution, then what means that there will be loopholes?
That is the Cabinet Secretary, MSMEs and Cooperative Development, Wycliffe Oparanya, and of course the SIC CEO. And they were just talking about digital borrowing. Pay, don't pay, what are the consequences, what are the possible repercussions? A lot of credit providers have a problem with borrowers who take but are not willing to give it back. Wanjiko, maybe if you could just bring clarity to that. There's a default rate that's very high. You're in a situation where you don't have collateral, and these people are still going to try and borrow elsewhere because CRB, regulations now are a little bit lax. How exactly do you feel about this?
I think for me that's actually personal, because I'm coming from a space where from around 2013, 2014, there was the AGP opportunity, the access to government procurement opportunities. So these are women, youth, and persons with disability who were given an opportunity to sell to the government. 30% of the government tenders were going to this group. And it really was a good opportunity, and it gave us money at the time. Over time, it's not as lucrative. Came COVID, for instance, and most of the financial institutions, mine included, we've had challenges making collections for some of that, from some of those clients. So some had secured their loans, and others had not secured their loans.
Right.
You go back, of course, maybe up to today, they haven't been paid.
Right.
Yes. So that means Nyali Capital also hasn't been paid. So even when you have to list them with CRB, you have to wait for the next opportunity that they get.
Right.
Where maybe if the opportunity has come, then they're having to go to other financial institutions to look for the money. And then because maybe I listed them or another institution listed them, then they can't be able to access that money because they are being asked, go pay up, then you come back. So at least that's helpful. But again, the situation has been, there are many people with outstanding loans today, but they don't have the cash. Maybe their businesses are no longer functioning.
Right.
So there's been like a wait and see until maybe things open up. So some we are holding their titles, some we are holding their logbooks, some just the records in our books that they owe us, but we just have to wait. So it's been that time maybe we're having to change the model and see. So do we also do the 5,000 to 10,000 because maybe that's where there are more clients.
Right.
Yeah, so you're having to look at changing the business model, and I'm sure many of the financial institutions are doing that because indeed the situation is that for people who have not been able to pay, it's not like they're refusing to pay today, they just don't have the means to pay, and it's very unfortunate.
All right, even the cabinet secretary, in that particular event was saying that they now, lowered the lowest amount from around 500 shillings to 100 shillings because maybe that is what Kenyans could pay. Maybe that is the amount that people should be given so that they pay.
We can't even talk about the pending bills today.
Right.
We can't go there. No, let's not go there.
It's a headache for everyone, I think. And of course, the cabinet secretary did say that the service providers, Safaricom and the telcos that are associated with, the Hustler Fund are coming up with innovations to ensure those who borrow repay. When it comes to, the credit information sharing, we've made this a little bit easier. There is this information, it's already on a hub that people can access. However, how do you make people pay? Even with this kind of innovation, yes, you have my details, you have my name, you have my number. How will you make me pay?
Yeah, it's tricky because there are different reasons why people don't pay. Some, it is like a hobby.
Right.
Others are really in a difficult situation. Others are testing the market to see how far can I stretch this thing. We had an example actually when we were proposing to start a debt counseling framework for those who feel indebted. Somebody quickly came when we made some information available that we could start debt counseling and we were testing the waters. Somebody came and showed us their situation. They said, I'm in trouble. I have borrowed 31 different loans outstanding as we speak.
Right.
And when we did a summation, it was 1.2 million shillings from an accumulation of small amounts. And this person really was getting into an over-indebtedness situation. The beauty with a credit bureau is that by the time you are accumulating 31 different loans, surely lender number 10 should have seen something happening.
Right.
And so a credit bureau can actually be a source of protection for somebody who is likely to get over-indebted as a result of what we would call reckless lending. A reckless lender can be guided by a credit bureau to see that, this could have been a good payer if it wasn't for us who are overloading that person. So a lender can turn a good borrower into a bad borrower because of not being careful. So one of the things is that it's a deterrent for people not to excessively borrow. And it's also a protection to the lender because if you keep losing your money, you'll soon close. Nobody wants to see lenders failing, and so a bureau does protect that from both sides. Yeah.
All right. Wanjiku, you did say that maybe some of the credit providing businesses should, adjust their amounts a little bit lower to get this market range of people between 5,000 to 10,000 shillings. Now, I'm looking at the market for cash loans and I'm seeing mobile bank / app, which is, one of the places that people could get loans from, 54% of borrowers use this. We have social network, that is your friends, you know, your neighbors, your cousins, your mother, your uncle. 22% of, you know, borrowers usually veer towards that direction. We have chama. You could borrow from your chama. 10% of borrowers are there. And then there's shopkeeper, which is, you know, someone that a lot of people don't usually consider. It's 6%. There is this popularity with mobile bank stroke apps. And these are adjustments that a lot of credit providers have to make now that, you know, things are changing. Where do you see this trend going?
Where I think it's already here. It's already here because we are, in this country, there's a huge percentage that is holding mobile phones. My mom, who is 83 years old, has a phone. Even if she doesn't know how to read or write, when you send her money, she's aware.
Right.
And she knows where to go and withdraw the money from, and she has her record. And she's also aware that if somebody accessed her phone, she can easily lose her money.
Right.
So all those the risks, even at her age, are taken care of. And I keep saying, even for me, at Nyali Capital, I'm a financial institution, having started from the bit of no techie, no digital thoughts from the beginning.
All right.
But even from a conference that I attended last week on Diaspora Tech Conference, and I was a speaker, we have to interact with technology as a financial institution. Otherwise, we face a Kodak moment.
Right.
Yeah, because I'll be able to get as many people borrow who are probably already my existing clients, and I already have a database of them, and be able to lend to them directly on the mobile platform. But am I doing that at the speed that I'm supposed to do so?
Right.
And if I'm not doing it, what am I waiting for?
Right.
So really, at the level where we are at, how the everything else is growing in terms of technology, we can't do without the mobile platforms.
Right.
So even for us, what you can say, we are not analog anymore, because why the central bank wants to regulate us is because they say, as long as you're using M-Pesa to disburse and collect,
right,
you're digital.
Right.
So you got to be regulated by at least the central bank. So again, our processes, even the way we are onboarding our customers and so on, that is the space we have to go to.
All right.
So the only fear from where I sit is that I wouldn't like, say, and I think probably it's a value system, to throw like money to everyone.
Right.
Because I know I make money from collection. So if I throw to everyone, will I collect? Even if I raise the rate to be at 99% and I don't collect, I'm not making money.
Right.
So maybe within the net of my own clients, I can be able to serve them digitally to start with before I can think of the other products that I can be able to pass to them again using the same platform.
Right.
On the other hand, I run a circle also that I target SMEs. It's known as EcoB Circle. So there, I have an app for my members. So they're able to get their statements from there, and they're also able to borrow, again, the range of 2,000 to 10,000 from the app without having to use the other longer process. So yes, if we don't do that, we are going to be overtaken and we'll be out of business, which is not what we want to do.
They usually say change or perish. It's a very popular phrase on X. Now you said something very interesting. There is the risk factor. It's very risky to just give your money to someone that you don't even know on a digital platform. God forbid that they, go incognito. You'll never find them ever again. The government was trying to focus on a credit score system, as opposed to a collateral-based system. This is a situation where they check your credit, how exactly is your behavior, your repayment rate. As she was saying, you check, is it 2 a.m. when this person pays certain bills? They want to gauge all those things. One of the places that they wanted to do that through was the Hustler Fund. However, of course, everything has its own gaps. As an information sharing, institution, how practical is it to go to a credit score system like, first world countries? Are we there yet?
Actually, a lot has happened in the credit score environment in Kenya. The credit bureaus are providing credit scores. And the interesting thing is that not many people are in the worst credit score position.
Right. Right.
The majority have very good credit scores. And that's why we encourage that this mechanism continues to take in data around good payment. Because the Credit Bureau is not just about blacklisting, identifying who is not paying. That's not the primary basis. Maybe it started like that, but where it is going now, the credit scoring system has become entrenched. All the credit bureaus are now providing scores. They are looking at the positive information, and they are providing a score that shows that if you are really a good payer, you are entitled to even a lower interest rate. And the banks have started using the scores to determine the interest rate that you deserve. And so credit scoring is happening. The Hustler Fund will do scoring. And I think when the CS was talking about working with Safaricom and other stakeholders, it was in the context of strengthening the scoring framework. And the Hustler Fund indeed will introduce a score to the best of our expectation. What we would love to see is where the scores are being integrated so that you don't just have only a Hustler score, because that is only saying one aspect of your life. If you have got credit from SACCO, from MFI, from all over the place, it would not be right to have just a score that defines only about the hustler. That would not give a complete picture of who you are. So our hope and encouragement to the government is that let's integrate these scores, let's integrate this data, because the more data you have about an individual's repayment history, the more accurate that score is. Because what is a score? A score is really a reflection of your past behavior that influences or is expected to determine your future behavior. And if you just pick one element, then that will not be predictive enough of your future behavior.
All right. Wanjiku, you have said that, as a credit provider, you can't just throw money at people. There is a situation where ideally, if, the government's plans comes to fruition, you will find that, there's a person's credit score that is given to you, and then you can gauge whether to give them or not. As a credit provider, would you, give a loan basing on this?
Yes, I would, but I would do more. I would start from a point of, and especially now, I live in Mombasa, and I'm also the director at Kenya National Chamber of Commerce Mombasa chapter. And there's a lot of support to the SMEs that we see. And the SMEs are coming in the space of especially the youth, the women, the youth. That's also my space. So what's happening there, we have incubation centers, quite a number of them. So their work is actually to incubate these SMEs and their ideas. So these young people are people who, after they get their product right and they are ready even to take to the market, then we partner with them. So because that market today is different from the market that would say is the Mama Mboga and the other ladies that who have been our traditional clients, for instance. So these are techie people. The young people don't want to keep moving. They don't want stories. They would like to use the technology. So that is the space, again, that I have started to form partnerships so that the youths who are under this incubation center, these other incubation centers, we are getting them together, even forming them into groups. Because when we lend to our women through groups, for instance, it has worked for many years. Even when you speak to the youth, they will tell you, my mom has always been a member of this, maybe my auntie and so on. So can this concept again work with the youth? But we start from the ones who are in an incubation center. And for sure, these are not going to be consumers of papers. Yeah, so we have to move with them at the pace where they are at.
All right.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about standardization, Jared. There is, it's a free market. We understand that. I have the money. I get to determine how much I want in interest, and I get to determine the, requirements that I need you to fill up, and of course, the timeline that I want you to pay me back with. Now, there's the aspect of pricing and debt collection. How much interest is too much interest? As a, information sharing, credit information sharing body, do you believe that maybe there could be a situation where we could have a standard pricing for these digital lending apps, Would that be fair market-wise to these individuals who are offering their money to other people? And would there be a situation where borrowers could have, you know, a standard rate for everyone?
Well, it's been considered in the past, even for the banks, the formal banking institutions, that we introduce caps. You can't go beyond this when you are charging interest. There has been a lot of debate among economists and financial experts, and largely the answer is that it's not a wise thing.
Right.
In a free market, in an open market environment, controlling interest rates for lenders does not work. Right. Because if people want to borrow and you have limited the interest rate and the person who is lending says, no, I can't lend you because I see you are a risky borrower and yet I can't charge you higher, then you are frustrated. And the other thing that would happen is that then those other underground lenders will begin to thrive, because as much as government then can control the interest rate, it cannot be able to pull out and fish out everybody who is probably violating the ceiling.
Right.
And so you get into a lot of, just like, when the foreign currency was, exchange rates were controlled, right, then the black market thrives. Right. That's one disadvantage of controlling interest rates. The other thing is that, strictly speaking, what you need to do is sensitize borrowers to understand that there are cheaper rates. Right. Don't control the interest rates. Just say that, we have interest rates that range from this to anything above this. Right. And when consumers know, then you create a market competition that encourages those who are trying to charge high to come down, because otherwise the borrowers are running away from them. Right. So in a free market, the best thing is to create information awareness to the public and let those who are charging low get more customers, and others will bring down their interest rates.
Right. As we start to conclude, because believe it or not, we only have like about 3 minutes. Wanjiku, maybe if you could just tell us, a free market is very important for credit providers such as yourself to thrive. However, as he said, with regulations and sometimes, restrictions, you could find that the underbelly of this particular, sector comes up and takes up, the people that you could be lending to, and it would ruin the entire dynamics. How well do you think this particular, sector could be regulated, but keep it fair for players such as yourself?
I think at the beginning there was something like a self-regulation. For some of us. And it also goes back to the same sensitization, even for us as lenders who probably are not regulated or in the process of getting regulated. What are some of these standards that others are following, and what is that we could start to adhere to start with, even before we get to everything else, and self-regulate ourselves? Because again, if the law is to regulate, so we also have to go towards the way of the law, right, but maybe step by step. I've actually applied for the DCP, and I got feedback. So I'm still in the process, but the feedback you get, you actually need to employ another human resource to go back again and do the review, and it's quite a bit of work. So again, with self-regulation, in bits and pieces, so that we can have time over which we can actually get into the regulated space, but within our pace.
All right.
Yeah, but if that is the way to go, then we don't have a choice. We all have to go that way. But I also wanted to add something, because we are concluding. Right. Around the space also of lending. We've spoken about lending a lot, but there's a bit of savings that probably we haven't talked about, because my view is that the 5,000 we are keeping on borrowing, and the 10, those small amounts that we are keeping on borrowing on consumption, my view is those are the monies we should be saving.
Right.
So that maybe in a year, 3,000 is around 36K for you, and not a debt, because it will be, again, Maybe the 3,000 you borrow 4 times in a year to probably be 12,000 in form of a loan.
Right.
So maybe we flip it sometimes. In as much as these opportunities to borrow are there,
right,
we encourage especially the young people to save, and the platforms are there, and innovations are coming up again digitally to make that possible for them.
Right.
But again, financial education is also something that's wanting.
Right. Financial education is very important, but it's wanting. Jared, I'll give you the opportunity to give us a one-liner before I close off.
Well, just to say that credit bureaus have made a big difference to our credit market. They have brought credibility, they have brought stability. Before the credit bureaus were introduced, there was a lot of instability in the credit market.
Right.
We are also getting to see that bureaus are giving us a lot of information in the form of research opportunities, which is informing, again, government decisions and other lending decisions. So when we get into the credit bureau and extract some research data, it is really helping the credit market to innovate.
All right, thank you so much, Jared. Thank you so much, Wanjiku. We've had a very amazing conversation here on the marketplace. We were talking about digital lending. Kenyans are big on borrowing, not so big on saving, and apparently not so big on paying back sometimes. Now, we are hoping that, digital credit providers do get what they need, especially in a fiercely or unregulated space, and maybe the government could tighten a few nooses, a few belts, so that we can have the best that we possibly can in this particular sector. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Hibaq Saeed, and of course, Rhoda Nyamai on Sign Language Interpretations. Good night.